This is Christian Swain, the CEO of Pantheon Sports. The Super Bowl may be over, but sports fans, it's time to shift gears because basketball season is just heating up. And you know what makes the action even better? Playing along with Prize Picks, the best place for real money daily fantasy sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot at winning up to 1,000 times your cash. And you know what makes the action even better? Playing along with Prize Picks, the best place for real money daily fantasy sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot at winning up to 1,000 times your cash. All-Star Weekend is almost here, and Prize Picks is where the real fans play. Whether it's the three-point contest, the dunk showdown, or the big game itself, Prize Picks lets you get in on the action. This week, I'm locking in my lineup with Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Edwards for more than 25. Plus, I've got Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds and Luka Doncic for more than 8 assists. I like my odds. And the best part, Prize Picks pays fast. I cashed out in just 15 minutes last week. Ready to get started? Sign up today and use code Pantheon to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. You play just $5 and boom, you get $50 free. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code Pantheon to cash in before All-Star Weekend. That's code Pantheon, Pantheon, for an instant $50 bonus. So don't just watch the game, play the game with Prize Picks. Pick your players, lock in your lineup, and run your game. Sign up now at the link in the description because basketball season is just getting started.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
In all the years of doing this show, seldom have we had the chance to get classy and Shakespearean. So grab a flagon of your best mead and bust out the lute and dance a merry jig. It's time to see, before a live studio audience, if Ophelia is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades and B movies and a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Hello to all of our listeners, and I get to say this in the room with us at 5 Paddles Brewery in Whitby, Ontario. Hello to all of you. Thank you so much for showing up to this. See, it's a good thing I mentioned that we're actually out of the basement, because otherwise this would be really awkward if we said, yeah, there's a bunch of people that showed up in our room and we don't know how they got here or how they got into the house, but they're here. But we're so thankful for this. We are talking about a film that I will admit that I am surprised we are talking about. We're talking about the film Ophelia. And here to join me, my not bad wife, my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, my lord.
Oh, good. We're going to be talking like this for the rest of the show, and it's not the beer kicking in.
All Shakespearean thespian acting.
So I get to finally say we get to talk about a film that there's a little bit of controversy about, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. But I was surprised that this film qualified, and it works out well because we are at 5 Paddles Brewery in Whitby, Ontario, and every Christmas season they bring about their Ophelia barley wine, which if you have not had it, damn, is it good. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that I might have one afterwards. But we're talking about Ophelia, which is the tale of Hamlet. And for those of you who had to suffer through English class, it is basically that whatever you took in grade 10 or grade 11 or wherever you had to take Hamlet, it's that. But it's from the point of view of Ophelia, the girl who went mad. So you have to think this is a little on the crazy side, but I'm all here for it. But before we get into this film, it is time to take 2018's Ophelia and trailerize it.
Something is definitely not right in the state of Denmark. Enter the world of Hamlet, as told by the one who apparently went mad, but happens to be the only sane one in the castle, which just proves what I've been saying all along. I'm not crazy. Everyone else around me is. Boom. Take that, expensive therapist. Daisy Ridley trades in her lightsaber for jugs of flowered water in Ophelia. This lady in waiting does her very best to wait through the kingdom turning to crap, her love turning into a revenge-seeking stepson who's pissed off because his not-dad is telling him what to do, and waiting ever so patiently for her self-anointed mother figure to put her medieval porn books down and do something useful. In Shakespearean, she hath found herself verily void of cares to give. LARP along as Daisy Ridley proves once and for all, you don't mess with cray-cray. Enter the world of Ophelia. Rated PG-13 for Pretty in Green.
So I have to ask, because as I recorded that trailerize and I realized afterwards, this feels like that moment of is the dress blue or is the dress gold? Because I'm watching this, I'm like, is it green? Is it blue? And I didn't feel like color correcting my television. So we're just going to say it's green and go from there. But let's get into who is in this film. The movie stars Daisy Ridley, Naomi Watts, Clive Owen, George McKay, Devon Terrell, Nathaniel Parker, Tom Felton, Dominic Maffin, and Daisy Head. It was directed by Claire McCarthy, based on the novel by Lisa Klein. Interesting note here, though. Nathaniel Parker, who played King Hamlet in this, for as long as King Hamlet lasted in this film, actually was in the 1990 film Hamlet, which starred Mel Gibson as Laertes, in this case played by Tom Felton. So he gets to double down on the Hamlet lore. The film was originally in development in 2009, and at that time, Juno Temple was in line to be Ophelia, and Ben Barnes was to be Hamlet, with music video director Don Shadforth to direct. Now, Don Shadforth had actually done music videos for Kylie Minogue, Jerry Halliwell, Garbage, and other artists, but this is what we got. But it didn't go unnoticed. At the 2019 Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Independent Film, lost to Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. And I can't believe I have to say someone lost to anything starring Nicolas Cage, but here we are today. At the 2020 London Critics Film Circle Awards, George McKay, who played Hamlet, was nominated for Best British Irish Actor of the Year for this 1917 and Where Hands Touch. He lost to Robert Pattinson for The Lighthouse, High Life, and The King. At the 2019 Indiana Film Journalists Awards, Naomi Watts was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but lost to Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers. Now, I haven't watched Hustlers, but the fact that anyone lost to Jennifer Lopez for her acting baffles me beyond all belief. At the 2019 New Zealand Cinematographer Society Awards, Denson Baker won for Cinematographer of the Year, and at the 2018 Palm Springs International Film Festival, Claire McCarthy was listed on the Directors to Watch list. This film, as epic as it may look, only cost $12 million to make. Domestically, however, it only made $50,722, and worldwide only $338,940. When it was released on the June 28th, 2018 weekend, it debuted at number 41 with only, and I have to articulate every single dollar here, because when you only make $22,145 in your first weekend in the theaters, it bears mentioning. That being said, though, it was only released in 58 theaters at that time. So it's not that big a release, but definitely did make its budget back. By the way, the highest grossing debut that week was Annabelle, which debuted in second with $20 million. And Yesterday also debuted in third with $17 million. But the reason why we are here, and not because we like the beer here at Five Paddles, are the critics. Over at Rotten Tomatoes, this film has a tomatometer of 58%. With an audience score of 80%. But this is where the controversy kicks in. Because according to Vulture, they had a PR firm paying reviewers $50 a pop to add reviews for this film, I guess to boost the algorithm. So when this film originally came out, the tomatometer was sitting at about 46%. So then they paid viewers and reviewers to actually boost up that number, which I don't know. I got a problem with this film sitting under 60% to begin with, because it is actually a decent film. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But when you hear that reviewers are getting paid to boost up a film, my biggest question is, where were we when they were handing you $50 a pop? But seriously, if someone offered you $50 to review a film, would you do it?
I do this for free. So, you know what though? How awful is that they're buying good reviews? No. Here's the thing. It's not just good reviews. It's just reviews in general. I mean, you guys have all heard about the algorithm, boosting things up. The more engagement, the better, et cetera, which is why no one ever actually listens to us. But when you think that people are getting paid to review a film just to boost the algorithm, apparently it was fairly even, some positive, some negative, and some people just coming out and saying, well, I reviewed the film because I got paid $50. It makes you question everything, except, isn't that what a film critic does?
Yeah, most film critics do actually get paid to review films, and again, why am I not getting money here? But let's get a broader picture of this. Over at Metacritic, the film has a Metascore of 60. At IMDb, it sits at 6.5 stars out of 10. At Letterboxd, it sits at 3.2 stars out of 5 for a 64% score. And at the Movie Database, which apparently has all the good vibes, 71%, giving this an aggravated aggregate of 66.33%. So this is actually one of the highest rated films that we have talked about on this show to date. And yet somehow, even with all of the paid for reviews removed from Rotten Tomatoes, it still qualifies. So before we get into the breakdown of this, I ask you, are you shocked that this film actually qualifies?
I am, but I could see it having a very select audience. It's not exactly, your go-to the movie theater and watch a Shakespearean play on the big screen. That's not an everyday date, it's a very select target audience.
So if I said to you,
unless you have an assignment,
wife, would you accompany me to the theater to watcheth the tale of Hamlet as told from someone completely not Hamlet?
And this is exactly how he would ask me. This is real. No, but seriously, unless you have an assignment due, you generally don't aim for Hamlet or Macbeth or
this does feel like the kind of film
Menace,
that is going to be shown in multiple high schools around the world for years to come, and people will sit there and go, "Oh dear God, I have to watch this, and I actually have to write a book report on it." I think that's maybe where some of the low reviews come from. People who had to watch this in school and go, please don't make me watch this again.
Except for Romeo and Juliet. That was a great movie.
Are we talking the Leo DiCaprio, Claire Danes one?
Yes, I am.
Because I love that version.
Wasn't it great?
It was. That version was awesome. Every other version of Romeo and Juliet sucks. By the way, we're not covering another version of Hamlet, which has a very Canadian feel to it. And I have to point this out because we are here at Five Paddles Brewery. Because we're at a brewery, for those of you who have ever watched Strange Brew, starring Bob and Doug McKenzie, watch it again and realize it's the tale of Hamlet as told through a bunch of hosers. You're now thinking about this, right? Bear with me here, right? Rosie LaRose is Hamlet. The daughter of the brewery is Ophelia. Bob and Doug McKenzie, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Remember that the brewery itself was called Elsinore Brewery, which is the name of the castle in Denmark. Strange Brew is Hamlet, and I have broken a few people in the audience. And for that, my job here is done.
Mind blown.
For the record, I actually proved that Hamlet and Strange Brew were the same film in college, and I got a passing grade on that one. So yay me. But let's get to the breakdown of this film. We start with Daisy Ridley, who stars as Ophelia, the titular character. Your thoughts on Ophelia?
Absolutely fantastic. And I really don't think she was mad.
No.
She had it completely together.
You realize...
But this was her story, and I love the turn of it.
You do realize that only people who say someone is mad are the people who don't want them to be mad, I guess.
So says the king.
Right? Leave it to the mad people to call someone mad. By the way, dear listeners who are listening to this, after the fact, on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, we are in front of a live studio audience. So at any point in time, our studio audience is more than welcome to come up to our microphone and chime in with their thoughts on the actors as we go through this. So as we're talking about Daisy Ridley, if you have thoughts on these actors, feel free to step up to the microphone, introduce yourself, and say hello to the world. Here's the interesting thing about this. This film was released shortly after the release of The Last Jedi. And I know some of our studio audience here have never watched Star Wars, which baffles me to this day. But still, regardless, don't worry. We will not hold it against you. But it's not unreasonable to say that The Last Jedi is one of the most divisive Star Wars films that have ever come out. And this is even post Jar Jar. And I have a feeling that some of these negative reviews are people just crapping on Daisy Ridley. Watching her in this film, I am surprised that we have not seen her in more period pieces to this point. I thought she was fantastic in this.
Very much. Like, absolutely. I mean, she was brilliant. She held her own, and she did a fantastic job.
I mean, also around this time, she was in the remake of Murder on the Orient Express. So she was getting some decent roles around this time. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and everything shut down. She was also had a cameo in The Bubble. We've covered that movie as well. Yeah, she was the gymnast in the video mirror. It's very brief.
Oh, the
but she's
Peloton
there.
girl.
If you haven't seen The Bubble on Netflix, dear God, it is one of the best pandemic films to ever come out. You need to watch this film. But yeah, no, I mean, Daisy really just...
I didn't know that.
It was the perfect fit for this. I don't know of anyone else who would have fit this better than she did at the time.
This is Christian Swain, the CEO of Pantheon Sports. The Super Bowl may be over, but sports fans, it's time to shift gears because basketball season is just heating up. And you know what makes the action even better? Playing along with Prize Picks, the best place for real money daily fantasy sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections for a shot at winning up to 1,000 times your cash. And you know what makes the action even better? Playing along with Prize Picks, the best place for real money daily fantasy sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections for a shot at winning up to 1,000 times your cash. All-Star Weekend is almost here, and Prize Picks is where the real fans play. Whether it's the three-point contest, the dunk showdown, or the big game itself, Prize Picks lets you get in on the action. This week, I'm locking in my lineup with Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Edwards for more than 25. Plus, I've got Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds and Luka Doncic for more than 8 assists. I like my odds. And the best part, Prize Picks pays fast. I cashed out in just 15 minutes last week. Ready to get started? Sign up today and use code Pantheon to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. You play just $5 and boom, you get $50 free. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code Pantheon to cash in before All-Star Weekend. That's code Pantheon, Pantheon, for an instant $50 bonus. So don't just watch the game, play the game with Prize Picks. Pick your players, lock in your lineup, and run your game. Sign up now at the link in the description because basketball season is just getting started.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Naomi Watts, who played not just Queen Gertrude, but Mathilde as well. So the sister of Gertrude, who was also the crazy witch making the tonic. Your thoughts on Naomi Watts in this duo role?
Incredible. I mean, when I put that together and I saw the final scene, no spoilers, but wow. I mean, that had to have been because you're literally running to yourself. Like, that had to be incredible to choreograph, to film.
I mean, there's a reason why this film did so well from the cinematography angle. I think this was perfectly filmed. But I had to look this up, and maybe our studio audience will, agree with me on this one. I had to look this up. Naomi Watts, who is the queen, looks about the same age as Daisy Ridley. Like, Naomi Watts hasn't aged at all. So I looked it up. And at the time that this film was released, Daisy Ridley was 28 years old. Naomi Watts was 50. Naomi Watts makes 50 look damn good and young. I was surprised. Because I'm sitting there, I'm watching, there's no way Naomi Watts is Queen Gertrude. And you look up the actual age. I'm like, okay, I might be wrong. And I might be watching this. And yeah.
Although incredible what they did with the makeup in making the two characters, the queen and the witch, look completely different. Like the witch was much younger and she had the beautiful makeup, the eye makeup, like really dark, hazy eyes. And then the queen did look aged. I mean, I'm not going to say older. I mean, 50's not what it used to be anyways, but she was lovely. I would have not said that she would be the same age as Ophelia, but closer.
But not really that far apart.
Not doubled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nowhere near. But the interesting thing here is that as Gertrude, I think she did very well. But I think as Mathilde, there was almost a feralness to what she brought to the role. There was something very raw as opposed to the prim and proper that Gertrude is supposed to be, except of course when she's, giving herself away to Claudius. This is one of those films where you sit there and you watch someone who is playing two different roles and you realize that they are putting two different characters together. It's not just you know, I hate to bring Adam Sandler into this, but it's not just Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler in a wig, because he's done that and it's not good. It's not good at all. No, I know you love Adam Sandler, but still.
It was two very different sides of her personality and two different characters, and it was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like she was having fun with the complete turnaround of the character she could play.
Yeah, no, there was thought process being put into the dual characters, and I think it played out very well. Clive Owen, who played Claudius, I need to put this out there because there are 2 times during this film where I'm watching the movie and one of the actors looked like a completely different actor. And I had to second guess if it was the actor in question. So I'm watching Clive Owen. And tell me if he doesn't look like Fred Armisen in some weird LARP wig.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to say Alan Rickman as like the Severus Snape
Alan
character.
Rickman would have been so good in this.
But there were so many different moments where I was like, okay, he is channeling Professor Snape. Like he's just evil and just
I'm just trying to
dark.
picture Alan Rickman in a very Snape voice going, I think you want to forget the king, perhaps love another. I will poison him. And no one will know what we have done. But I didn't mind him in this. Now, admittedly, I'm more familiar with Clive Owen and I can't remember the full title of the film, but it was basically like this dystopian future where there were no children. He had to protect like the one child that was there. Children of Men, that was the film that I'm talking about. I'm so not used to him in this very Shakespearean type vibe, but I think he did well enough and brought enough, and I hate to say, he brought enough asshole to him to make Claudius unlikable, which is exactly what you want in this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his intentions were just so, he wanted to be king. He didn't care how. I mean, to kill his own brother, come on.
Right? I mean, here he wanted the kingdom. In Strange Brew, he just wanted the brewery.
But it makes you wonder if he ever actually loved the queen or if it was all just to take over the kingdom.
But that's the interesting part of this. And to our studio audience, and please feel free to shout out, how many of you have suffered through Hamlet in high school? I see. Yeah, literally every hand in the brewery has gone up at this point.
This is our support club, actually.
This is no longer a podcast audience. You just finished it yesterday. It has taken you a long time to get through Hamlet, let me tell you. But this is one of those things where you sit there and you question everything that you thought you knew from the original Shakespearean play. But that being said, we all knew that Claudius was, for lack of a term, the asshole. He married the wife of his brother to take over the kingdom. He had his comeuppance due, and he got it. He got it, slightly different from Hamlet, but he got it. So in watching this, you want certain characters, because you know the story. You want certain characters to be what you think they are. Ophelia, you wanted to be different because it's her story, and you wanted to pull away from the madness. Claudius, is this the role you wanted to stay the same?
I think so. I mean, yeah, like he had to play it very cold. And he did. And he did. But that's the character. That cannot change. But the interesting twist that I love is that for everything that we've been led to believe about Ophelia, the story takes on that just a nice little twist. It's just enough to kind of play with the concept of her descent to madness and really just you feel for her because she's had such an incredibly tragic life. Like her love that, is forbidden and losing her father, like that was just harsh. It's harsh.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, the fact that it was also revealed that Claudius also sired a child, and I had to say it in very Shakespearean, sired a child with Mathilde, and then basically turned on Mathilde, and then went after Gertrude. Like, they spend a lot of time on Claudius. And I think it worked well because you have someone in Clive Owen who's able to deliver a very good, and I hate to say it, asshole performance, but you want him to be the asshole because that's exactly what he is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. When you have someone who's supposed to be the villain and you hate that character, the actor has done the job that you want them to do. George McKay, who played Prince Hamlet, I got thoughts, but I'm going to let you start with this.
I liked him. I liked him, but I think I would have liked to have seen a little more of him. Like, help me out, guys. Do you think that there was not enough Hamlet in Ophelia's telling? Like, because he would just disappear. He would be sent away and we wouldn't see him for beats of the chapters of the movie. And it was like, no, I needed more. I needed more Hamlet.
I mean, obviously, and I'm sure there are others who are kind of in the same boat. Probably the most recent film version of Hamlet that people have watched is the 1990 version, which starred Mel Gibson as Hamlet. So you have that image of Hamlet in your mind of rough, rugged, not batshit crazy Mel Gibson before he went batshit crazy. Right? Right? Before all of that, proper Mel Gibson acting and a very, not necessarily a muy macho kind of Hamlet, but a very sure Hamlet of his intentions. And here you get a Hamlet that's a bit more.
He was a little goofy. And I think there was something endearing about that.
At times. But to that token, because it's Ophelia's story, I like the fact that he felt like he needed to be able to lean on Ophelia to compensate for his own lack of surety in his own reality. Like, his world is crumbling. His father is dead. His mother has married his uncle, taken over the kingdom, taken the crown from him. And all of a sudden he's like, I have no idea what's up, what's down. And the only sure thing in his life is Ophelia. And when you see when they get married, it's Ophelia in a very, and I don't want to put it as a dominant position as far as their wedding day, but it very much feels like Ophelia is in a reassuring, calming, nurturing position.
The way I see it, everyone talks of madness, whether it's Ophelia's madness, whether it's Hamlet's madness. Everyone was mad, but they seem pretty even keel. And even when Ophelia was acting mad, she was quite clearly acting. It was very much a show because you know that she very much has everything sorted and, she knows exactly what she's doing. There was a self-awareness, and I think the strength of Ophelia's character was almost a detriment because I wasn't buying that she was mad. I wasn't buying that Hamlet was mad either. He just kind of seemed, I don't know, not that he was like fumbling through his life at that moment, but it was just kind of like all he wanted, he was love-struck. He wasn't mad, he was love-struck. You know what I mean? I
think he was lost and he wasn't quite sure exactly how the world was going to play out. But to that token as well, because this is based on a Shakespearean play, you have these moments where they're almost playing for the stage. They're playing for the audience. And there's that scene in the courtyard. Sorry, not the courtyard, but more like the throne room where they're whispering to each other because they know that Claudius is watching. And this feels like the kind of moment during a stage play where the actors are wearing those little Britney Spears-esque microphones and talking so quietly that only the audience is supposed to hear. And there's those moments where George McKay shines, as does Daisy Ridley. But then there are moments where I'm like, oh, you're trying so hard, George McKay. The line that comes up that Ophelia said is there, I sense two characters in you, one baser, one better. I think there are moments where George McKay is better in Hamlet, and I think there are other moments where he is baser. I wasn't completely sold on him, but I wasn't completely not sold on him.
Can I just say, though, that it was a Shakespearean play.
Yes.
And to dissect what Shakespeare was actually intending with the words on the page. Like, I don't know, my high school brain still hurts to this day.
You're having flashbacks now.
But this movie was so well written.
Yes.
I think that it completely conveyed and almost like translated for the, they made it Carrie understandable, right?
Yeah.
Like it was understandable.
That's the thing.
What the story was.
Based on the book by Lisa Klein, and I will admit that I have not read the book from Lisa Klein that this is based on, but this is one of those situations, and you see some fan fiction out there, and I'm sure you have probably found yourself looking for the tales of Harry Potter as told from the point of view of Hermione Granger over the years, because let's be honest, ain't getting done in Hogwarts without Hermione Granger. Harry was useless, as was Ron. But this is one of the situations where I'd be fascinated to read the book. And I'm sure there are other stories out there where you would love to hear the story based on someone else's point of view. And there are books out there that, I mean, I know Star Wars does that, where they have the from a certain point of view novels where it's just a collection of short stories told from the point of view from the characters that no one else cared about.
I have the book on Snape and Dumbledore. Were they good? Were they bad? They were kind of towing the line, and it shows both sides equally. It's brilliant. Anyway.
when I say we're geeks,
busted,
we're utter film geeks here. But since we're talking about Harry Potter, let's drop this right now. Tom Felton, who played Laertes, the brother of Ophelia, your thoughts on a Malfoy?
I hate to say it, Potter, but no, Tom Felton was wonderful in this. He was so good. Like, who killed my father? Where is he? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Like, he was just so good. So good.
It's interesting to watch, and I don't know if you have all watched all 8 Harry Potter films. As the films went on, Tom Felton got better and better as he got older. And as Draco Malfoy's character really developed into more than just the sniveling, snotty kid that's basically going to like be Harry Potter's nemesis, to a much more deeper, complex character, Tom Felton's acting grew leaps and bounds. Now we are years after the Harry Potter verse, and Tom Felton has proven himself to be quite the good actor. And there are moments in this film, and yes, there is the complete anger at his father being killed and learning that Hamlet killed his father completely by accident. Do they just randomly accidentally kill people? In this, because it seems that it happens a lot.
Well, unless it's with poison, and then it's with intent.
Yeah, it feels like a Marvel film. You're dead until you're not. Multiverse. But it's one of those things where there's this scene where he's leaving for, I think it's France that he's leaving for, because he's basically getting the hell out of Denmark because it's not good to be there. And his father's giving him the pep talk, and there's this look between him and Ophelia, this very brother-sister moment where they're kind of like looking out for each other. And on both Daisy Ridley's and Tom Felton's parts, it's like an unspoken acting moment. And it's really good between the two of them. I love the dynamic between Tom Felton and Daisy Ridley in this. Devon Terrell, who played Horatio, what I thought was going to be a small part, it actually turned out to be a very pivotal part. Your thoughts on him?
You know what? He was so fantastic. Like, I really believable.
There's this moment in the library that tells us that Horatio knows pretty much everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And invites Ophelia in. And even though she's like, girls aren't allowed in the library, and he knows. He sees what's what. He sees the reality of Ophelia and the smartness and the strength in the character, and just says, yeah, get in here. Even in the moment at the pond where she's bathing, and he's like, no, come on, Hamlet, stop being a douche and let's let her get out of the lake. Horatio is played very empathetically, very smartly, very serenely. And I have to say serenely because there's a lot of madness that's building up around him. And yet Horatio still feels like one of those few characters that's able to keep their wits about them. And the one character, aside from Hamlet, that Ophelia can confide in. And I found that fascinating in this because we're so used to everything from Hamlet's point of view. Who does Ophelia turn to when even Hamlet is unsure of what it is that he wants to do? Does he want his crown? Does he not want his crown? Is he willing to walk away from it all? Is he willing to leave everything behind and go run off to wherever with Ophelia? Or does he avenge his father and reclaim his crown and reclaim Denmark? And yet here's Horatio, still with his head on his shoulders. And Ophelia, I think, finds a kindred spirit in him. And that is all part of the way Devon Terrell played this.
He was very wise and very loyal. Like, I absolutely loved, and I can't remember if in the play or in the Shakespearean world that Horatio was training to be a doctor. Because I thought that was a really interesting little take. Like, everyone's faking their death, and he had to be the one to retrieve Ophelia from the coffin. So
see, I lucked out because 1990s Hamlet came out when I was around grade 10, and that's when I had to do Hamlet in high school. And if I were to tell you that, and I'm doing the math here on this, 35 years later, I have purged everything from Hamlet out of my head because it's Hamlet.
It's been a minute. I only know from what I've read on the internet in the 100 words or less.
Wait, you trust the internet on Shakespeare?
No, I just study up for today. I
sure
100 words or less.
The Coles Notes version.
The story of Hamlet in less than the Coles version.
I mentioned that there were two actors that I watched in this, and I was like, am I watching the same actor? Daisy Head, who played Christina. This is the only other lady in waiting that had a character name in this. But as I'm watching this, and this seems apropos now to bring up because the substance has been getting a lot of attention, she reminded me of Margaret Qualley in this. And it's really hard to get that out of my head when you see her and go, are we sure that's not Margaret Qualley? By the way, if you haven't seen The Substance, if you haven't seen Death, and basically if you haven't seen anything Margaret Qualley is in, she is a fantastic actor. But your thoughts on Christina? So basically this is the lady in waiting that's constantly putting Ophelia down.
Mm-hmm. Jealous. It's all jealousy.
But she
wanted Hamlet.
No, she didn't want Hamlet.
Oh, yes, she did.
She just wanted Gertrude's attention. But there's the interesting thing is that there's this moment where Gertrude is talking about, watching the chickens in the hen and watching them as they peck at each other and basically comparing it to the ladies in waiting that she's supposed to be the mother figure to. And Christina embodies all of that. And but even still, there's these moments where Christina leans over to Ophelia and says, she favors me now, Gertrude. And then, tomorrow it may be you. She's fickle in her fancy. As, we're dealing with Claudius taking over the kingdom, there's an interesting complexness to Christina as played by Daisy Head. And I wasn't expecting that from arguably a minor character in this.
You know what, though? I liked that she was giving Ophelia a hard time because it was just that little bit of, this is supposed to be, the ladies in waiting, like the queen took Ophelia under her wing and brought her in and raised her as a daughter.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that there was that
pettiness.
Kind of like, that uncomfortableness for Ophelia.
Yeah. Ophelia is smart and admittedly more educated than the other ladies in waiting because obviously Laertes took the time to teach her to read. And there's that moment where Gertrude kind of dismisses Christina. So Ophelia can read to her.
There was that jealousy, and any hate that she was throwing at Ophelia was because she was jealous.
Yeah. But I think you needed that. I think you needed to put Ophelia into a realm where she was looked down upon for how real she was. And that made Ophelia a stronger character in the end of things. Nathaniel Parker, who played King Hamlet, here for a good time, but not a long time. Your thoughts on the dearly departed?
Well, it felt like he was much older than the Queen. Like, you almost kind of had to wonder if that was an arranged marriage.
I'm getting some House of the Dragon vibes there, and it's not good.
Did the Queen kind of get maybe the wrong brother in the first place, or was it that her new king, the king's brother,
Claudius, yes,
thank you, Claudius, he was with the witch lady, right? So
yeah,
it's all kind of like, I don't know. I know in medieval times it was like everyone's family. Like it's one big happy family. Everyone's related.
You make it sound like, oh, you're coming down to Denmark there. You're going to kiss my cousin and you're going to kiss my sister. No, we're not going to do that. But
she married her brother-in-law and made him king. It was weird. It's weird.
Okay, so it's redneck
weird.
Hamlet. Okay. But I have to point this out though. So when you're reading Hamlet or you're watching the Mel Gibson version, you are seeing Hamlet's distraughtness at his father dying and Claudius taking over the kingdom. But this is Ophelia's story, and Ophelia is raised by Gertrude. So the fact that King Hamlet is killed, and it feels more of a side note, off screen. It happened, but you didn't have to see it. In the background, it makes sense in this case because this is Ophelia's story. In Hamlet, the king dying is a massive part of this. In Ophelia, because it's her story and because she is so close to Gertrude, it makes sense to gloss over it, I think. Dominic Mapham, who played Polonius. This, of course, was Ophelia's father and eventually got accidentally killed by Hamlet, which you have to think that because Hamlet apparently accidentally killed Polonius and, of course, killed Laertes, that's got to put a damper on the relationship.
But it was an accident, not defending, but it made it all the more tragic. Like, could you imagine, like, you go in with the intention of killing the king because he murdered your father and stole your mother and is just driving your wife mad, right? He's really not a good guy, is he? I'm really painting him in a bad light here, but it made it even more tragic that, oops, it wasn't the king that I intended to kill. It was actually my father-in-law. That makes it really awkward. That's going to make an awkward family dinner.
That is the worst Thanksgiving dinner conversation that you're ever going to have. By the by, I'm so sorry I killed your dad, and then I killed your brother. And it's also a very small Thanksgiving dinner because it's just the two of them at that point. But that also means you don't have to make a big turkey. But with that being said, I feel the fact that King Hamlet's death is off camera makes sense because this is Ophelia's story, but this is Ophelia's father. And I feel like his death felt glossed over in the wrong way. I feel that even though that Daisy Ridley needs to be the central focus of this film, this was a moment that needed to be played out because we needed to see Hamlet's reaction to accidentally killing the father of his bride.
But that was the problem I had with it, that he just disappeared. I mean, granted, he was supposed to have been,
taken away by Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Yeah, exactly.
But there wasn't, because it was Ophelia's story and it was following her, there wasn't enough of where is Hamlet in this and where is his head at? Like, after he realizes, I just killed my father-in-law, my wife's going to be really pissed. Like,
not getting nookie that night.
Yeah. So, it's, I really, and I don't know if we're going there yet, but I have issue with the liberties that they took with this movie.
Okay. Let's get into that. No, let's get into that now because really this feels like the time to get into this.
Since I opened the can of worms, here we are.
Here's Pandora's box.
Right. So they didn't follow the actual story as we knew it. They took liberties. The queen didn't kill the king, didn't kill Claudius.
Didn't kill Claudius, no.
It was actually Hamlet that killed the king in the telling of Hamlet. So before he died.
Before he died. Yeah, well, yes.
Before he died. But and then Ophelia technically should have, when she drowned, that should have been the end. So the liberties that they took with this movie, I liked, but it's like, can you even do that? Can you rewrite Shakespeare?
I mean,
they did.
I'm sure anyone who's ever had to go through Shakespeare during high school would be sitting there and going, yeah, I would absolutely love to rewrite Shakespeare and not have to go through it. And because really, let's be honest, if you ever had to read Shakespeare, you hated reading Shakespeare. But can you have a faithful telling of a story, or at least retelling of a story from a different perspective if the story has changed?
Well, what if? I mean, look at the MCU.
Okay, but what if is very different, because they're literally saying, well, what if, and because they're dealing with the multiversal saga, it makes sense. But even in Avengers Endgame, you had moments where what happened in previous films still happened, but you were seeing it from a side point. Anything that happened was never actually changed. Canon wasn't changed. Here, they're like, yeah, maybe Shakespeare was wrong. Maybe we're just going to like touch up. It feels like some producer gave producer's notes on frickin' Shakespeare and said, maybe we should change this because, you know, audiences, for whatever reason.
I mean, on one hand, okay, because it's Ophelia's story, but if Ophelia's story ends in the lake and that's it, end of story, end of life, then everything that falls after is, I don't know. It's
so I guess the question is this still the original Shakespearean story, or is this basically a inspired by as opposed to a different story point?
But I like what they did with introducing Hamlet's child and Ophelia's child. Like, that was really cute.
I love the expansion of the world. I love what they did with it, and I love the filmography of it, like the cinematography of it. I think this was fantastic.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Gummy Clusters, the sweet treat that always elevates the vibe. With a sweet gummy surrounded with tangy, crunchy nerds, every bite of Nerds Gummy Clusters brings you a whole new world of flavor. Whether it's game night, on the way to a concert, or kicking back with your crew, unleash your senses with Nerds Gummy Clusters.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because it's time to save at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through February 23rd, take an extra 40% off red tag clearance boots, jackets, and sweaters. We're talking the best cold weather styles from Vince, Cole Haan, Sam Edelman, and more. All on sale for even less. All sales final. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's gonna be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Now streaming on Peacock.
By all that's holy, Bridget Jones.
Hello, old friend.
Bridget Jones is back.
We are about to embark on an adventure.
For one final chapter.
Anything else I can help with?
Yes.
Experience every moment.
Do you think about what might have been?
And fall in love.
To Bridget.
All over again.
It's time to live.
Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. Streaming now only on Peacock.
Before we get to our MVPs, and this is where I look at our studio audience and say, I'd love to know who your MVP of this film was. And we do have a microphone for you, so feel free to come up to the microphone and we'll get to that point. But I want to bring up one more point of order here before we get on to our MVPs. There is that controversy of a PR firm paying reviewers to boost the algorithm of this film to get it noticed on Rotten Tomatoes and boosting up the tomatometer from a film that was, for lack of a better term, ignored. So I ask you, does this revelation that some reviewers get paid to review a film that they probably didn't want to watch in the first place, does that take away from the film for you?
I don't think so, and I'm quite happy that the film qualified, because it means that we're sitting here today talking about it. Because I'll admit, I didn't see it until about a week ago. I pre-watched it just in case I missed anything when we were here today. Watching it a second time, there were little things that I caught the second time that I'm like, oh, that's very clever.
Yeah.
Like, just the connection of the characters and their story. And you know what? I'm happy that we're here talking about this movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable to watch. It makes Shakespeare enjoyable.
This is proof positive, and maybe you guys will agree with me on this one. What the critics say about a film should not determine the quality of that film. And the box office of the film shouldn't qualify or at least quantify how good a film is. Because let's be honest, 2025, we're only now starting to get back to proper box office numbers that we had before the pandemic. So you can't sit there and take a look at a film that was only released in less than 100 theaters and go, well, I guess it must have been a bust. It didn't make even $100,000. Well, you know what? It's a good film. It's well shot. It's absolutely well directed. It's well acted. It has a fantastic cast. It's an interesting angle on a story that we all know. So it makes the film relatable. So for whatever reason that the critics downvoted this film shouldn't take away from the enjoyment of watching it. So, by the way, we watched this on Hoopla. So if you have a library card, you can watch it for free wherever you are in the world. But I ask you, now, Carrie, and to you, our studio audience, and I'll give you a moment to think about this. Who is your MVP of Ophelia? So to our studio audience, if you have an opinion on who your MVP is, please feel free to step up to the mic. And Carrie, while we're waiting for them, who is your MVP of this film?
Oh, you're going to make me pick.
I am going to make you pick.
You think I'm going to pick Tom Felton?
Well, no, actually, I don't, because he was barely in this film.
I mean, he was wonderful in it, but no, I'm going with Ophelia.
Daisy Ridley.
Like, damn, she played the part so well.
All right.
And was so likable.
We do have someone stand up to the mic, so please introduce yourself and let us know who your MVP of this film is and why.
Hi, my name is Kat. And first off, thank you for hosting, because this is not a movie that I would have grabbed or watched. And I loved it. Like, I actually thought it was really great. Everything from like the set, especially like the wardrobe, was just fantastic.
Oh, this film looked bigger than the budget that it was. The cinematography, the direction, the costuming, and they filmed this on location for some of the scenes, but for the most part, those were sets that they made.
It was like beautiful. Everything in it was beautiful, and it just looked amazing. And I hate to pick the same answer, but Ophelia was my MVP for sure. I think she just kind of like rose above it all, and it really spoke to her personality from, you know, the other Queen's lady being kind of nasty to her, and even right down to the end when Hamlet didn't go with her and she saved herself and went anyway. I just thought it was very powerful, and it was a really great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. Thank you so much, by the way.
Thank you.
That's the interesting thing, is that Daisy Ridley, for the most part, is known for her role as Rey in the Star Wars films. And I think this is the kind of movie that tells you that Daisy Ridley is a fantastic actress and deserves to be in more, I don't want to say meatier roles, because if you're in Star Wars, there's a lot that's being asked of you to be in as part of that franchise. Daisy really brings so much to the screen, and I hope that there is more for her. So please introduce yourself and let us know who your MVP is of this film.
All right. So my name is Matt. And first of all, I want to, thanks so much to you guys and Five Paddles for having this event. It's been a ton of fun. I think there's a lot to be said for a really good villain as well. And I think, Claudius, the evil king, as a good villain, as a good evil guy to hate. You guys talked about him earlier as being well written as a villain. I think it's really important for a story, and I think a good story needs a good villain like that. And I think he was done quite well.
Yeah, I find Claudius, and again, it's been a bit since I've read Hamlet or had to watch Hamlet or been tortured to study Hamlet. God damn it, high school. But I found this film delved more into Claudius and the way he acted. And I think Clive Owen is a fantastic actor to be able to tackle that role. Because again, you want someone who's going to be the bad guy. And let's be honest, he's the bad guy, to be smarmy and smug and unlikable. And, if we're going to take or draw any parallels, the best wrestlers are the ones that can draw heat. Mm-hmm. If you can draw heat from a crowd, you are going to be over as a wrestler. If you can draw heat as the usurping king of Denmark, then Clive Owen has done his job. Do you have any other MVPs for this film? So introduce yourself, let us know who you are, and feel free to tilt the microphone towards you there.
This is too high. Hi there, my
Hi.
name is Crystal. I would say the Queen, Naomi Watts, definitely. She did a great job. She showed so much empathy, for Ophelia, and, it was very admirable. And I just have to say, you guys are very inspirational. And you guys are like the epitome of relationship goals in life. And you're very entertaining and inspirational.
Thank you
so much. Have you seen this movie before today?
No, never. And I was surprised. I was impressed that I liked it, actually, because I'm not usually into these movies.
Okay, so let me ask
I'm,
you this.
I'm shocked that you guys aired this because, the subject of your podcast, I'm surprised you aired this because I loved it.
So let me ask you this. Knowing that this film has a, for lack of a better term, less than stellar critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and on some other aggregate scores, do you look at critic scores when you're thinking about films to watch?
No, I don't personally.
See, that just shows you're smart.
Why, thank you. Yeah, I don't care about other people's opinions.
See, and that's the way movies should be.
I'll watch it regardless, but...
Thank you so much for this. Yeah,
I liked it.
When it comes to Naomi Watts, I love the fact that she had two different characters to play, and she did both with absolute aplomb. And it's hard to deny what she brought to this. She did bring both a regalness to Gertrude, but also the manicness of the sister as well. So thank you so much. All right, so I feel like I've stalled long enough here. It's easy to stall when you have other people chiming in as well.
Yeah, but you made me answer first.
Because I'm evil. Okay, so originally I had Daisy Ridley as my MVP. But the more I talked about this, the more I realized that sometimes it's the secondary characters that help define the main characters. And you need those secondary characters to really kind of flush out the story, because otherwise then it's just a singular tale. So when I tell you that Devon Terrell, who played Horatio,
yeah,
is my MVP, I say that knowing that Daisy Ridley, tomorrow I could change my mind absolutely and go, no, what was I thinking? It was Daisy Ridley. Of course it was Daisy Ridley. And the next day, it was Horatio. Either way, you had two fantastic performances in key critical roles. One, the overall narrator of the story, and one, the person that defines not just the narrator, but the narrator's motivation. So the fact that he was able to both define Hamlet and Ophelia tells you how important that character was. Carrie, thank you so much for this. 5 Paddles Brewery in our studio audience. Thank you guys so much for this. We hope that we do this again soon. But until next time, to our studio audience and to our listeners around the world, well, you guys know the drill. If there is a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or is so bad that there is no way in the rotten state of Denmark there was anything good that we can say about it, hit us up on social media at Not That Badcast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out all of our other shows, including Keep Watch Pass, There Can Only Be One, Spin Shuffle Skip, and our upcoming Grading on a Curve special, where we're looking at the movies nominated for Worst Film of the Year at the Razzies. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay. You guys are Five Paddles Brewery in Whitby, Ontario. Thank you so much for coming out to see us. This is It's Not That Bad, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care, everybody.
Do you love it loud? Come to Rockin' Pod Weekend in Nashville. Rock convention featuring panels, interviews, podcasts, signing sessions, vinyl, pop culture collectibles, and more. Over 30 celebrity guests, members of LA Guns, Accept, Kicks, and more. Live concerts, Nashville Rockin' Fest Thursday, Rare Hair on Friday, Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts Saturday, Punchlines and Backlines All-Star Comedy Show on Sunday. Full details at rockinpod.com.